Who's booking you for those?
Sorry?
Who books you for the music videos? The
Well,
band or the record
at
company?
those days, it was the director and the band.
Okay.
And then from there, they would put the name forward to the record company commissioners.
Okay.
The record company commissioners, would hire the directors first. You would have like three or four directors that the commissioners would think about. I like this director, I like that director, and they would write a treatment for the song. A lot of times the director would speak to me if I had a relationship. Hear the song, Crescenzo, I'm up for this job. What do you think? If you got any ideas,
Cool.
please share it with me. I need to write a treatment and submit it to the record company. And then a record company commission would choose one treatment that he or she loved that would really portray strongly with a song.
Right.
I'm sure they would discuss this with the artists themselves. And then the director, would hire me. It was never a question. Nowadays you got to go through this whole bureaucratic, you know, roster of network, studio, all these people that have to hire you. And it's not only the director, which is very peculiar
Yeah.
because, as a cinematographer, you're with a director side by side, shoulder to shoulder. So the process is really whacked right now.
Yeah.
Very frustrating right now.
Is it? So it's the director even when you're doing television, they hire you, the director chooses the cinematographer?
You would think,
Oh,
as I was saying before, you would think that's the way it should be.
yeah.
But the director has to submit now
Oh dear.
my name, the cinematographer's name, to the network, to the studios.
Wow.
They have their own list of people that they have worked with them before.
Yeah.
They have the
They're
list.
trying to
It's in
schmooze
their
their
computers,
people.
you know, and you got to get approved by them first. So, it's a very difficult thing because when you're a cinematographer and you're up for a job, you're up with a lot of other people. I'm not just competing with my own roster in my own agency, but there's, dozens of agencies else out there. And you're dealing with competition with their list of rosters of cinematographers. Then, you got to get your reel on their desks. They got to look through your reel. They got to see if they love your reel. Then a long list of 15 people becomes a short list of,
Oh,
10 people. Then you're on a very short list of, okay, we're going to meet 3 to 5 people. Then you have a Zoom meeting. You go through that whole process
so
of the
it's
executive producer, the network, the studios. They're all in there listening to you. You got to pitch yourself, sell yourself, come up with your ideas, and they're really picking your brain
so it's extremely competitive.
extremely.
Extremely competitive to be a cinematographer, and I meet so many young guys and girls nowadays. They all want to
Yes.
be cinematographers. What advice do you have? Knowing that it's such a competitive business, what advice do you have for all these young people that want to do this for a profession?
Want to do this as a cinematographer or
Hmm.
what does it take to be a
What
cinematographer?
does it take to be a
To be a
cinematographer? Yeah.
cinematographer. Okay, because those are two very different dynamics of questions there. I always answer this, like sometimes when I'm in a seminar giving lectures to students,
Can you go down?
that is a very quintessential question that a young student would ask you first.
Right.
And since we're here in your
And
podcast,
since I am a young student.
since we're here in your podcast, Paris, which is you're part of Leica in the photography family, I always tell my students that you have to be a photographer first
Hmm.
before you become a cinematographer. And I make that very, very clear to the students.
Makes sense.
And their eyes go wide open. What does that mean? And then I get into that whole conversation of what photography is about. What is the difference between a photograph and a picture? We all take pictures. We all see pictures through
Hmm.
magazines, whatever. We're inundated with pictures. Everyone takes pictures, but not everyone takes photographs. So, what's the difference? Then I go into that spiel about the difference. A photograph is evoking a narrative, evoking a story, evoking an intrigue of what you see through those four frame lines inside of that box that's captured in that so-called decisive moment of when that photographer pushed that shutter down, which can be a thousandth of a second.
Yeah.
Why did he click that at that time to capture that moment? All right. So now you see this photograph and you feel something. You feel a narrative. You feel a story. You don't necessarily feel those emotions when you're looking at pictures.
Right.
So I tell a student, okay, you have to have a camera on you If you want to be a cinematographer, to be a photographer first, whether it's a pocket camera, a
Right.
small DSLR camera
Anything.
around your neck, an iPhone, anything, and you're taking pictures, hundreds of pictures every day, until one day, out of those two, three, 400 pictures that you took in a day, now you're seeing maybe five of them that maybe can be photographs.
Right.
Now your aesthetics are starting to shift a bit. All right, so now instead of taking everything eye line, now maybe sometimes you're getting lower with the camera. Maybe
Mm.
sometimes you're lying your belly on the ground, shooting up at something and giving something a very heroic presence. So now you're shifting the dynamics in the pictures. You're evoking a narrative in your photographs by giving this person stature, power. Why? Because you just lowered the camera.
Hmm.
So, you apply these things when you take photographs. To me, I love geometry, compositions. Uh,
You could see that in your work.
Compositions is a very religious to me when it comes to a photograph, because I've been trained when I look at things, I look at geometry. Like I'm looking at you right now, Paris, and you're in a wedge of a wall. So I
Right.
see I see
I
the
like that.
I see the forced perspective of the wall behind you. I see the lines of the wall, and I also see the depth with a picture frame and the sofa in the background. I have this frame here in the foreground
Yeah.
in my peripheral vision. So there's geometry there. I have a box of frame here. Look at the lines of this painting here. I'm looking at you, very monochromatic, with all your black fashion against a white wall, but the yellow chair is a pop of zest there. So
Mm.
I'm looking at you very
That's a good
nonchalantly having a
description.
conversation.
Yeah.
But what makes an artist is they see things in their peripheral vision, in their aesthetics, in their chemistry, some of which is innate, a lot of which is learned.
Hmm.
It's not all innate, but you got to start with that innateness, I feel, to know that you have something that's in you biologically that's innate. You have to discover that. Then it's up to you now to nourish that and to water that seed and let it blossom. So I'm looking at you. I saw this geometry here. And that to me makes a great photograph. So what do I do with that geometry? Do I place it in my composition? Do I get wider to incorporate that? Or do I want to lose that because maybe I find that too distracting and I want to concentrate on you subconsciously for the audience? Maybe I'll push in a bit with my frame to
Uh-huh.
lose that a bit. Okay, I have that. Maybe I want to now bring the camera a little lower to give it a little more stature,
Bigger
you
boots.
know?
Thank
Well, then
you.
I would move in
Thank
with a
you.
wider angle lens.
So I'm all hairy now. So forgive me, everyone. Disco got me hairy. Well, no, I see that in your what you're describing right now. I see in your work when I
It's a Paris Chong